Welcome to the Voice of Islam. The Voice of Islam is a weekly radio program organized by the Islamic Council of Jamaica, the umbrella organization for the Muslim community in Jamaica, to propagate the message of Islam, dispel the common misconceptions about Islam, and facilitate a medium to provide Islamic perspective on topical issues and alternative solutions. You may contact the Islamic Council of Jamaica at 648-9545. That's 648-9545. You are listening to the Voice of Islam. Before we begin, let's take a few minutes to listen to the recitation of verses selected from the final revelation to mankind, Al-Quran.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
In the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful.
Wal 'Asr.
By time.
Innal insana lafi khusr.
Indeed, mankind is in loss.
إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Except for those who have believed and done righteous deeds, and advised each other to truth, and advised each other to patience.
You are listening to the Voice of Islam.
Inshallah, today we're talking about Musa alayhi salam, the most commonly, frequently mentioned prophet of Allah in the entire Quran. And the story of Musa alayhi salam is fascinating. Different parts of the story are featured at different places within the Quran. I'm going to share a really powerful scene. Not just a part of the story, not just an event. I'm going to share a scene with you from the life of Musa alayhi salam that is shared with us in the Quran by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself. So in Surah Taha, I'm taking this particular selection from Surah number 20, Surah Taha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَلَقَدْ أَرَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا كُلَّهَا فَكَذَّبَ وَأَبَى. Talking about Fir'aun, that we showed him all of our signs, but he rejected them and he refused. He called them a bunch of lies. قَالَ أَجِئْتَنَا لِتُخْرِجَنَا مِنْ أَرْضِنَا بِسِحْرِكَ يَا مُوسَى. He said, did you come to us to kick us out of our own land, O Musa? Is that what you're here? You're here to try to use your magic and kick us out of our own lands? فَلَنَأْتِيَنَّكَ بِسِحْرٍ مِثْلِهِ فَجَعَلْ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكَ مَوْعِدًا لَا نُخْلِفُهُ نَحْنُ وَلَا أَنْتَ مَكَانًا سُوًى. He said, all right, well, I'm going to bring some magicians as well, just like the magic that you do. So Musa, I want you to fix a place, fix a time, fix a place where we won't, flake, neither will you, and everyone's going to show up and it's going to be an open space in front of everybody. So Musa alayhi salam said, all right, I ain't afraid of you. مَوْعِدُكُمْ يَوْمُ الزِّينَةِ وَأَنْ يُحْشَرَ النَّاسُ الضُّحَى. Musa alayhi salam said, yeah, well, guess what? We're going to meet on a holiday, يوم الزينة, which was like a national public holiday. Nobody's at work. Everybody's off from work. Everybody's off from school. National public holiday. وَأَنْ يُحْشَرَ النَّاسُ الضُّحَى. And all the people will be gathered in like the morning time, right before noon, duha, in the morning time before noon. Why that time? Because the light is out, the sun is high, and everything is visible. Everyone is there and everything is visible. So he said, okay, that's fine. فَتَوَلَّى فِرْعَوْنُ فَجَمَعَ كَيْدَهُ ثُمَّ أَتَى. So Fir'aun went from there, from this setting of the terms, and went and basically got his game plan together. قال لهم موسى ويلكم لا تفتروا على الله كذبا. So before I tell you anything more, what the plan of Fir'aun was, that Fir'aun basically sent scouts out into his kingdom, said, find me every single magician that you can find, bring them all here together. They were all brought to Fir'aun, and when they got together with Fir'aun, then they basically said that, okay, Fir'aun, if we beat Musa, then you obviously get what you want. What's in it for us? And he's like, I'll make y'all all VIPs. I'll give you government positions. You'll be set for life. So now everything is good to go. Everything is set. The big day arrives. It's the time for the showdown. Before they head out, just to kind of discuss the terms, make sure everybody understands what's going on here, Musa alayhi salam is meeting with these magicians. Now Musa alayhi salam says to them, وَيْلَكُمْ, what are y'all doing? وَيْلَكُمْ لَا تَفْتَرُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا. Don't lie upon Allah, meaning don't lie about these things. Don't go out there and support this falsehood and put lies on Allah. فَيُسْحِتَكُمْ بِعَذَابٍ. He will crush you. He will destroy you with punishment. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنِ افْتَرَى. And everyone who has ever defied Allah, that person has always suffered. That person has always been ruined. فَتَنَازَعُوا أَمْرَهُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ. Now Musa alayhi salam says what he's got to say to them and he walks out of their locker room. Imagine it's before the game. There's a stadium, there's an arena, there's hundreds of thousands of people gathered there together. Musa alayhi salam goes into their locker room and tells them, what are y'all doing? You know this is wrong. Why are you supporting this? Don't ruin yourself because of Fir'aun. Musa alayhi salam walks out of the locker room after sharing his message. فَتَنَازَعُوا بَيْنَهُمْ أَمْرَهُمْ. فَتَنَازَعُوا أَمْرَهُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what? They start fighting amongst one another. They start fighting and pushing and shoving and arguing with one another. Because they're saying like, what Musa alayhi salam is saying makes a lot of sense. So they start fighting with each other. وَأَسَرُّوا النَّجْوَى. And they said, shh, be quiet, be quiet. Fir'aun will hear that we have doubts, that we're flaking. قالوا, so some of them, they get up and they say, إِنْ هَذَانِ لَسَاحِرَانِ. Musa and Harun, they're just two magicians. يُرِيدَانِ أَن يُخْرِجَاكُم مِّنْ أَرْضِكُمْ بِسِحْرِهِمَا وَيَذْهَبَا بِطَرِيقَتِكُمُ الْمُثْلَى. They just want to kick you out of your lands using their magic, and then they want to replace your way of life. They want to destroy your way of life. فَأَجْمِعُوا كَيْدَكُمْ ثُمَّ أْتُوا صَفًّا وَقَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْيَوْمَ مَنِ اسْتَعْلَى. And they said, so gather yourselves together. فَأَجْمِعُوا كَيْدَكُمْ. Get yourselves together. ثُمَّ أْتُوا صَفًّا. And form into lines. You know how we operate. We practice this. We did drills. We got this down. So get yourselves together and then line up into your rows. وَقَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْيَوْمَ مَنِ اسْتَعْلَى. Today, whoever wins will succeed. So we gotta win. We gotta succeed. Success is ours. Victory is ours. We gotta win today. We gotta beat these two today. And they march out.
You are listening to the voice of Islam.
Now I want you to imagine Musa and Harun alayhim as-salam standing out there, two men by themselves. And out come marching out. Some of the narrations say there were 70,000 magicians. Some narrations say there were 70 magicians. In either case, there's dozens of them. They come marching out. Okay, you know when a couple of hundred people, a couple of thousand people march together, the ground shakes. The ground is shaking. This huge battalion of magicians come walking out the other side. Imagine how it looks, how uneven it looks, how intimidating it would be. قالوا, they say, Ya Musa, إِمَّا أَن تُلْقِيَ وَإِمَّا أَن نَكُونَ أَوَّلَ مَنْ أَلْقَى. Are you going to go first or should we go first? They showed a little bit of courtesy. They said, you can go first if you want, or we'll go first. قَالَ بَلْ أَلْقُوا. Musa alayhi salam said, y'all go first. فَإِذَا حِبَالُهُمْ وَعِصِيُّهُمْ يُخَيَّلُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ سِحْرِهِمْ أَنَّهَا تَسْعَى. They threw down their staffs, their sticks, and ropes, and they did a trick. It was an optical illusion. It was trickery. That it looked like that they were snakes that they were moving around. فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةَ مُوسَى. Now I want you to get the scene in your head. These dozens, hundreds of magicians are standing there. They all throw down ropes and sticks. And next thing you know, they look like they're moving. They look like snakes, serpents that are alive. Musa alayhi salam is standing there with his brother Harun, just two guys. There's thousands of people there yelling and screaming and cheering. And berating them, heckling them. And they throw down in what looks like hundreds of snakes. Now the entire ground is full of hundreds of snakes. Musa alayhi salam, when he sees that, فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً Musa. Musa alayhi salam just felt just a little bit of fear deep down inside. And the Quran says, فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ. He didn't show it. He kept a brave face. He kept his game face on. But he felt it deep down inside. And Allah knew he felt that inside. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him at that time, قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ. We said, oh Musa, don't be afraid. Don't you dare be afraid. إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. You and only you can win today. You and only you will win today. وَأَلْقِ مَا فِي يَمِينِكَ. Remember what I taught you, Allah said. When I asked you, In the beginning of Surah Taha, Allah asked Musa alayhi salam, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا Musa? What's in your right hand, O Musa? He said, remember I taught you? وَأَلْقِ مَا فِي يَمِينِكَ. Throw down what's in your right hand. تَلْقَفْ مَا صَنَعُوا. It will literally eat everything they've made. إِنَّمَا صَنَعُوا كَيْدُ سَاحِرٍ. They've just performed a little bit of trickery. وَلَا يُفْلِحُ السَّاحِرُ حَيْثُ أَتَى. And a magician will never ever be successful. So Musa alayhi salam takes his staff, says Bismillah by the command of Allah, and throws it on the ground. It becomes a huge serpent moving around rapidly back and forth. People seeing it are terrified, like, oh my God, what is this thing? It's like a huge serpent. And it goes through the entire field and literally swallows up, gobbles up the hundreds of ropes and sticks that they had thrown down. A minute ago, this entire field was filled with snakes, what looked like snakes. And Musa alayhi salam's serpent goes on the loose, and literally within seconds, within minutes, it clears out the entire ground, comes all the way back to Musa alayhi salam. He grabs the snake again, and it turns back into a staff with those ropes and staffs nowhere in sight. Now the whole place goes pin drop silent. It is completely quiet in there. Not a soul is even breathing. People are holding their breaths. They can't believe what they've just seen. And then what happens? They hear a huge thud on the ground. Boom! The ground shakes. And what happens? فَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سُجَّدًا. All of those hundreds and thousands of magicians fall into sujood before Allah. قَالُوا آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ هَارُونَ وَمُوسَى. And in one voice, in unison, making the walls of that auditorium, that arena, that stadium shake. They say, آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ هَارُونَ وَمُوسَى. We have believed in the Lord of Harun and Musa alayhim as-salam. Now Fir'aun, you can imagine what he's thinking. He can't believe what's going on. He's enraged. He's baffled. He says, آمَنْتُمْ لَهُ قَبْلَ أَنْ آذَنَ لَكُمْ. You believed in him before I gave you permission? إِنَّهُ لَكَبِيرُكُمُ الَّذِي عَلَّمَكُمُ السِّحْرَ. He's in charge. I understand what's going on here. You people had this planned out from the very beginning to make me look dumb. فَلَأُقَطِّعَنَّ أَيْدِيَكُمْ وَأَرْجُلَكُمْ مِنْ خِلَافٍ وَلَأُصَلِّبَنَّكُمْ فِي جُذُوعِ النَّخْلِ وَلَتَعْلَمُنَّ أَيُّنَا أَشَدُّ عَذَابًا وَأَبْقَى. He said, I will cut your right arm off and your left leg off, and then I will hang you from the branches of the trees, and then you will know who is more severe in punishment. You will know who is more harsh.
You are listening to the voice of Islam.
So he threatens them. You leave this now, otherwise you will regret it. They said, we can never choose you over the truth that has come to us and over the one that created us. We can't choose you over Allah. فَقْضِ مَا أَنْتَ قَاضٍ. You do what you gotta do. Do your worst, Fir'aun. Do what you gotta do. إِنَّمَا تَقْضِي هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. What's the most you're gonna do? What's the most that you can do? إِنَّمَا تَقْضِي هَذِهِ الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. The most you can do is end the life of this world. إِنَّا آمَنَّا بِرَبِّنَا لِيَغْفِرَ لَنَا خَطَايَانَا وَمَا أَكْرَهْتَنَا عَلَيْهِ مِنَ السِّحْرِ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. We have believed in our Lord, who will forgive all of our sins, and even the magic that you forced us to do. وَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. Allah is better and longer lasting. As long as we got Allah, you can do whatever it is that you feel you need to do, because we'll be okay at the end of the day. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself, Allah Himself gives us the reflections. That's how beautiful this surah is. Allah gives us the reflections from this lesson. إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَأْتِ رَبَّهُ مُجْرِمًا فَإِنَّ لَهُ جَهَنَّمْ. Somebody who comes to Allah as a criminal, without repenting, without realizing, without changing his or her ways, فَإِنَّ لَهُ جَهَنَّمْ. That person, Jahannam, the fire of hell is reserved for that person. لَا يَمُوتُ فِيهَا وَلَا يَحْيَا. That person will never die in the fire of hell, nor will that person really ever enjoy life. Because they won't be allowed to die, and that's not called living, that's no quality of life. They'll have a miserable existence. وَمَنْ يَأْتِهِ مُؤْمِنًا قَدْ عَمِلَ الصَّالِحَاتِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ لَهُمُ الدَّرَجَاتُ الْعُلَىٰ. But somebody who comes to Allah as a firm believer and who has done good deeds, then for reserved specifically for them will be very high stages in the hereafter near Allah. جنات عدن تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها وذلك جزاء من تزكى. The gardens of Eden, the gardens of paradise, rivers flowing from beneath these gardens. The Quran tells us rivers of pure water, rivers of milk that will never go sour, rivers of pure honey, rivers of the pure wine of paradise. وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ مَنْ And the خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا, they'll be in these gardens of paradise for all of eternity, forever and ever. وَذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ مَنْ تَزَكَّى And this is a reward of those people who purify themselves. When they see an opportunity, when they are dealt with the truth, when they hear the truth, they see the truth, they embrace that truth. They change themselves if that's what that truth is asking them to do. These magicians, former magicians, believers, shuhada, martyrs, they saw the truth. They witnessed the Messenger of Allah in action. And they made the conscious decision to change their life and their purpose of life. We are sitting here talking about listening to that same story, that same messenger. We are reading the Quran, listening to the Quran, interacting, witnessing a miracle. How much will it change us? That's a question we got to ask ourselves.
You are listening to the Voice of Islam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Greetings and salutations to my brothers and sisters in humanity. Welcome to another episode of Mythbusters with your brother in humanity. This is Sulaiman Tijani, and as we do each week, we're going to be looking at myths and misunderstandings as it relates to the religion of Islam and trying to clarify them. This week, we're going to be looking at the notion or the concept of Islam and violence. Now, one of the more common myths or misunderstandings that continue to get airplay or pushed out in the mainstream media is this idea or concept that Islam as a religion promotes violence. Now, this is a very exhaustive topic, and on Mythbusters, we try to keep things succinct. So we're going to be trying to analyze it in three key factors or facets. The first one being that the religion itself, Islam, comes from the root word salama, which means peace, right? Muslims, adding to that, Muslims, when we greet each other, the way we greet each other is Muslims, we say, Assalamu alaikum. We say, may the peace and blessings of the creator of the heavens and the earth be upon you. And then the person responds, wa alaikum salam. And unto you as well be peace. So these are people that are exchanging greetings of peace to each other. And what is so strange is that this was a common practice that we found even amongst the Maroons. Interesting point. The second thing that we want to look at is that a lot of times when people now choose to look at verses from the Quran, what they do is that they go ahead and they'll cherry pick certain verses and say, oh, look on this verse, boy, and when you find them, you fight them, this and that. He said to them, well, what about the context of that verse? Did you read the verses that came before it? Did you read the verse that come after it? No, not really. Well, why would you not do that? Why would you not read the verses in context? Because what they know is that once the verses are read in context, then the verse was revealed at a time of war, when it was active war going on, and the creator was actually giving legislations as to what to do during the time of war. They, however, purposely choose to ignore some of the other verses that would have made those verses clear, and some other verses that also further support and show that Islam does not promote violence. And when we raise to them other verses in the Quran, such as the one found in chapter 5, verse 32, where the creator of the heavens and the earth says that taking one innocent life is like taking the life of all of humanity, or saving the life of an individual is like saving the life of all of humanity. Suddenly people start scratching their head and say, oh, well, I didn't know that was in the Quran. Or that when you do a true analysis and study of the life of the Prophet Muhammad, who we see as the final messenger in a long line of prophets, including Abraham, Moses, Isa alayhi salam, or Jesus, and then the Prophet Muhammad, when we study truly his life, we find that the vast majority of the wars, almost every single war that he fought, were defensive wars. And that when he had the opportunity to retaliate, when he went back to Mecca, where his followers previously were being killed and they were being tortured, when he had the opportunity to retaliate, he didn't retaliate. In fact, he forgave the people. And so that narrative that Islam as a religion promotes violence doesn't stand up to scrutiny when you analyze the Quran and the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. The third factor that I wanted for us now to look at is, well, let's look at it in the real world setting. The reality is that in the absence of political strife or ongoing war, Muslim countries are by and large safe. And in fact, when you look at rankings in the world of murder capital cities in the world, our beloved country, Jamaica, ranked in top 20. Then when you look at countries, not the cities alone, because Kingston is the one that them ranked in the top 20. When you look at the countries in general, Jamaica is ranked at 5th, having like 44 per 100,000 people dead as a murder rate. Now, I mean, this scourge of violence that we're dealing with is affecting every single one of us. No one will then now say, well, no, man, Christianity is the one that is promoting the violence because the vast majority of the country, is Christians. We would say, no, that is not true, because that is not from their teachings and is not from their people. There are many factors that relate to the violence. Similarly, when it comes to Islam and Muslims, Islam does not promote violence. Muslims do not promote violence. Rather, we promote peaceful coexistence. And so this myth about Islam promoting violence is nothing more than a false narrative. And so we declare this myth to be debunked.
You are listening to the Voice of Islam.
Despite over 1.6 billion of the world's population being counted as faithful adherents, making it the world's second largest world religion, Islam remains one of the most, if not the most, misunderstood religion. On Islam Misunderstood, we will seek to clarify some of these common misconceptions while empowering you, our faithful listeners. We start by taking a look at the issue of Islam as an Arab religion. In refuting this misconception, we start by examining the sources of Islamic thought and its legal framework, that is the Quran and the statements of the Prophet Muhammad. In the Quran, God, he declares, as we heard so eloquently recited earlier, that he has created us into different nations and tribes so that we may get to know one another, but that the most honorable, the most beloved in his sight is the one who is most righteous, most conscious of him. And furthermore, in an authentic statement of the Prophet Muhammad, we are told that there is no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, except through God consciousness. Now, in his practice, Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was surrounded by men and women of different ethnicities, including men such as Bilal ibn Rabah, the Ethiopian, and Salman al-Farsi, the Persian. Now, if we look in modern time, we would recognize that according to the latest studies, less than 20% of the Muslims in the world are Arabs, meaning that more than 80% of Muslims are non-Arabs. So, for example, there are more Indian and Indonesian Muslims than there are Arab Muslims. The truth is that Islam has a universal message for all of mankind. That is, that everyone can gain peace and success only by acknowledging and worshiping the one true God. As such, you will find that Jamaicans are Muslims, Trinidadians are Muslims, Bayesians, Italians, Germans, Nigerians, Ethiopians. In fact, there's almost no place on the face of this earth that one could go and that would not find Muslims. In fact, if you go to Alaska, you're going to find some Muslims there. So we see, far from being an Arab religion, Islam is in reality a universal religion. Ladies and gentlemen, Boys and girls, we declare this myth debunked. Join us next week as we examine another common misconception. I'm your brother in humanity, Sulaiman Tijani, and I leave you with the greetings of paradise. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you.
Thank you all for listening to The Voice of Islam, a weekly radio program organized by the Islamic Council of Jamaica to propagate the message of Islam, dispel the common misconceptions about Islam, and facilitate a medium to provide Islamic perspective on topical issues and alternative solutions. Remember, you may collect a free Quran, yes, a free Quran, by emailing us, sending a text message, or visiting any of our locations. Please send in your questions and comments to islamradiojm@gmail.com. That's islamradiojm@gmail.com, or by text message to 892-1350. That's 892-1350. You may also visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Islamic Council of Jamaica, or find us on Instagram at ICOJ_official, or you may listen to a past episode on our YouTube channel, Islamic Council of Jamaica. You may also visit any of the following locations: Islamic Council of Jamaica, 24 Camp Road, Kingston 4. Masjid Al-Aziz, Portmore Central Plaza, West Tradeway, Portmore. Masjid Al-Rahman, Windsor Road, Spanish Town. Islamic Dawah Center, 1 Makati Street, Montego Bay. Masjid Al-Hakim, 138 Main Street, Ocho Rios. Masjid Al-Sabr, Albany, St. Mary. Masjid Hussein, 3 Miles River, Westmoreland. Masjid Al-Haq, New Green Road, Mandeville. Masjid Al-Nur, Port Maria, St. Mary. Masjid Al-Ihsan, West End Road, Negril. Masjid Al-Taqwa, Newell, St. Elizabeth. Masjid Ibrahim, Riversdale, St. Catherine. Masjid Al-Sakina, 26 Miriam Way, Montego Bay. Peace be upon you all. Assalamu alaikum.